Hello and welcome to the EduTalk Author Series hosted by Biotone EduPartner Program, and massage industry authors. The EduTalk Author Series is a bonus extension to EduTalk Tuesdays to further support virtual learning and connect you with industry authors who, through their books and textbooks, support your career success. Today's author is Michael J. Shea, a licensed Florida massage therapist since 1975. He's an international educator in the field of biodynamic craniosacral therapy and a founding member of Biodynamic Craniosacral Therapy Association of North America. Michael specializes in pediatrics and adults with symptoms of post-traumatic stress syndrome, PTSD, and a veteran with 100% service-related PTSD disability with the Veterans Administration, the VA. Michael's a former member of the Massage Therapy Board of Knowledge Task Force and supports the massage industry to understand and integrate a metabolic understanding of the body into the clinical practice. Let's listen and learn as Michael shares the inspiration, the insights, the tools and tips from his 7th book, The Biodynamics of the Immune System, Balancing the Energies of the Body and the Cosmos, providing you keen insights for client health, well-being, and practice success. Thank you, Michael, for joining us, and congratulations on the 7th book. And I understand your 8th book is in the works. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, and I'll see you on the other side.
Great. Thank you, Donnell. And I also want to thank the Biotone folks. This is really special for me to be able to talk about this book and the intention for the book. It's also a gratitude that I have for the massage therapy industry. It's the massage therapy industry that I got involved in. As you heard, in 1975, I got my license to practice back when there were very, very few massage schools in the United States. And I'm a proud graduate of the Lindsay Hopkins School of Massage in 1975 in downtown Miami, Florida. So I learned a lot. And a lot of the reasons that I write books like this is that I am so grateful to the profession as a whole that I like giving back to the profession. And I think we are at a time, not only with the profession, but also, on our planet where there are some serious and significant problems going on with the human body. Let's just keep it, at the level of the human body right now. And so the primary intention for writing this particular book, because it started and the inspiration was at the beginning of COVID. It's like, OMG, look at all these people that are dying. And the reality is, when you look at it, so many of the people that died and got very, very ill from COVID and so forth had very compromised immune systems. And so for me, this book is about saving lives, because the compromised immune system is so incredibly serious nowadays. For example, in the research I did for this book, at the time, and this is like 5 years ago, 88% of Americans were metabolically unhealthy. And as of 2 years ago, that has jumped up to 93%. So we've got 93% of Americans that are metabolically unhealthy. And the major focus of that lack of health is going to be in the cardiovascular system. And where would that source be that is the challenge with the immune system and the health problems that Americans are experiencing right now? Well, it turns out that I've got a number of contributors to this book. And one of the major contributors is my wife, Kathy, who is certified in Swiss biological medicine. Both Kathy and myself teach at the Biomedicine International Clinic in Switzerland. And it's at that clinic, it's a cancer clinic with the use of alternative methods. And so it's through those efforts of learning these different alternative methods of improving the health of the immune system that I wrote this book. And my wife contributed a couple of chapters in the first part of the book, the first section. The book itself actually has 5 sections to it. So the first section very carefully lays out the switch that I feel is important for massage therapists to know from anatomy and physiology that all of us learn, and we need to continue learning that because there's new discoveries all the time in our field. But we have this grounding of anatomy and physiology, and it's important to understand the linkage that has to the body's metabolism. So when we talk about, excuse me, when we talk about the body's metabolism, we're talking about the source of the metabolism and the usual source of many of the problems, metabolic problems, are located in the gut, and specifically the lining of the gut, the epithelial lining of the gut. So some of you listening probably already know, well, I'm familiar, I've heard of leaky gut syndrome and things like that. And that's very important information to know and to have. But rather than promoting a particular dietary dynamic within the book, because there's 1,000 books on diets, I'm promoting, and what my wife and I are trying to do is to get people to become embodied with how they're eating and what they're looking at in terms of their own diet and nutrition, and to understand certain basic principles. And the first principle to understand is just the level of pollution that we are dealing with on a day-to-day basis with the human body. And I'm not just talking about air pollution, of which there's a lot, but the amount of pollution that's actually in our food. And there's a tremendous amount of research on what's called processed food. And it's processed food that is the main problem, in that when we eat processed food, it disrupts the lining of the gut. And how does it disrupt the lining of the gut? So the second problem, the first problem is the pollution, and the second problem is the disruption of the lining of the gut. Well, that's called in the literature dysbiosis of the gut microbiome. So I can tell you right now that the gut microbiome is extremely important. It's already been linked to over 100 psychological disorders and problems, and is the key problem in many metabolic problems. The main thing, if you're going to have one takeaway from this part of what I'm talking about, is going to be the relationship that these problems have with the gut microbiome to what's called inflammation. The processed food creates a dynamic of inflammation, and that inflammation goes to the cardiovascular system, thus the metabolic problems with the cardiovascular system. It also goes to the liver first. And I don't want to do a whole talk on anatomy and physiology right now and metabolism, but to give you just a brief overview of what's in the book and how we've simplified some of these terms so that you can have an understanding. And the third principle, so we have the pollution, we have the disruption of the gut microbiome. Some people are saying that some of the microbes in our gut are actually becoming extinct. That's just amazing how much we've destroyed our own embodied way to deal with nurturing ourselves and feeding ourselves and feeding our heart. So that's brings about the third leg, the so-called third leg in this triad, this stool, to figure out how to wrap yourself around these metabolic conditions that you might have personally, or don't know you have, but you might have, or that your clients have, because I'm sure that the clients coming in, one after the other, are describing symptoms that would be called metabolic problems. And it's how do you repair the epithelial lining of the gut? And so the book gets into the repair cycle that's necessary, depending on whether you're vegetarian or you can eat meat and so forth. And the whole phenomenon that's going on, that I'm sure many of you know, of bone broth or vegetarian broth that has the equivalent amount of amino acids and protein and so forth, that can actually do the repair of the gut. So, and that involves a level of detoxification. So there's also necessary to have detoxification. And so that is a very general overview of metabolism, how that gets you into an understanding. And the book then moves forward into the therapeutic presence necessary to be with people, whether they have a metabolic syndrome problem or not. And a lot of the book is about contemplative practices in the second and third section, and somewhat into the fourth section of the book. But the contemplative practices of how to maintain presence when you're doing your work or when you have your own personal spiritual practice. It turns out, and this is so simple, it's so incredibly simple, that if you can just feel your heartbeat without taking your pulse, but taking your pulse at the carotid artery or the radial artery, that's fine. But learn to just simply feel your heartbeat in the middle of your chest. Guess what? That increases empathy. So a lot of my work in this, it's called biodynamic work in the world of biodynamics, is about feeling the inside of our body, feeling the functioning of the inside of our body, and particularly our heartbeat. And if you're going to bring that to the lower organs in the pelvic, in the abdomen and pelvis, then it's going to be about knowing when you're hungry, knowing when you're full. These are signals that your immune system and your endocrine system are giving off and are very, very important to understand and to feel. But if you can feel your heartbeat, that is the way in which you can have choices around behavior if you have an elevated heart rate, but also as you're working and you're going through your day, it increases empathy. It will help you with your clients. It will help you with yourself to understand yourself and feel yourself better and engage in reliable behaviors that really promote kindness and well-being and really the essence of moving into a spiritual practice. So a lot of my book and a lot of what I'm writing about is trying to reintegrate a spiritual understanding. And believe me, I'm not talking about religion here. I'm just talking about what brings meaning to one's life, that makes it special, that activates a feeling of love, that activates a feeling of kindness, that these are innate qualities, that when we can feel our heartbeat, we can start watering those seeds of loving kindness and compassion through this notion of empathy. So these middle parts of the book are really important in that regard. And I've got several contributors. I had training as a multi-faith chaplain some years ago, and my spiritual advisor, Annalise Prendina from Switzerland, incredible woman, a spiritual advisor of mine, but she helped shape one of the chapters in the fourth section of the book. And we're really trying to take a look at what brings meaning to your life and how you can have a discovery of that from a spiritual point of view, and not necessarily the point of view of really getting down on yourself or being depressed or being anxious, all of which as humans we cycle through. But that's really secondary to the undergrowth of this empathy, this love, this compassion that's right there in the middle of your heartbeat. And that really brings us to the end of the book. And the end of the book is the fifth section, and it's got almost 200 photographs of hand positions. And a lot of people don't know that 80 to 90% of the immune system is located in the lining of the gut. So as you recall, when I was just mentioning the lining of the gut a couple of minutes ago, well, if you have a problem with the lining of the gut and its linkage with the microbiome and the epithelial lining, and then the endothelium, which gets disrupted in the bloodstream, in the artery because of inflammation, then it's going to be very, very important to have a sense of how to build the immune system. And I think all of the techniques that I show are around the abdomen. That one of the main takeaways that I'm really would like to see the whole massage therapy industry, the whole manual therapy industry get involved in, we have to spend time in the abdomen. If we've learned abdominal massage, do abdominal massage. If a client says, I'm not comfortable with abdominal massage or work on my abdomen, have them put their hand over your hand, or have them put their hand on their abdomen and you put your hand over theirs, and just very gently feel the breath, as I speak about in the last section of the book. Feel the breath coming into the abdomen, filling the abdomen. That's going to move the lymph. That's going to improve the immune function of the entire body. So a lot of the techniques I show are about the immune system and proper lymphatic flow. So I do a lot of protocols for lymphatic flow that can be integrated within any manual therapy practice, not just a craniosacral therapy practice. And I have to say that one of the main focuses that I've been studying for the last, since I think 1990, and that's going way back, is the vagus nerve and the vagal system. So I have a major part in the last part of my book about what I call the multivagal system, and understanding the role and the function of the vagus nerve, not only in heart health, but also in gut health. A lot of people don't know that the vagus nerve, part of it comes down to the gut, and it actually monitors every single metabolic function happening in the human body. It monitors glucose metabolism. It knows what's going on with the gut microbiome, and all of this information is being sent to the brain. And guess what that vagus nerve can do? It can actually create an anti-inflammatory response and send it to the body. So it really is important for your career and for your clients and for yourself that you have a sense of how to engage and how to stimulate your own vagus nerve, and to stimulate the vagus nerve in your clients so that it can create an anti-inflammatory response. And these are really, really important things to focus on. And I think at this point, that's given you a brief overview of the book and how important I feel it is for our clients and for ourselves and for the entire industry. And so I think I'll leave it at that for the time being, and see if Donnell, if you have any questions for me.
Well, I do. The stimulate the vagus nerve. I was very curious about that, and understanding more. But before we get into that or answering any questions, please hold up the cover of the book, and show everyone the book we're discussing today, The Biodynamics of the Immune System, Balancing the Energies of the Body and the Cosmos. So thank you. And how many pages is this?
Oh, well, I don't
I know
write
you
short
mentioned
books.
200 pages of photographs.
With the index, we're talking about 425 pages, but there's over 200 photographs and images. It's just rich in information, not only neurobiologically, but the immune system, the cardiovascular system. We have to really begin to know how the cardiovascular system functions as
Well,
massage
thank you.
therapists. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to hold up the book again and just flip to some of the photographs so people can get an idea.
Sure.
And you mentioned hand positions.
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
And that's the abdominal massage part?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Great.
all the photographs are black and white, but in the middle, which is really interesting, because I'm an academic embryologist, and so I understand embryology, and metabolism from the beginning. But there's a section, a color section, of all watercolor drawings of the human embryo that I commissioned from a German artist. They're absolutely beautiful. So it's a beautiful book, and it gives you a deep understanding of the human body from conception to death.
Well, thank you for the work you've done. I mean, that's there's a lot in there. So now, stimulating the vagus nerve. Now let's see if you have a quick little tidbit there.
Well, the best way to stimulate the vagus nerve, well, number one, you can go on Google and look at vagal stimulation, and you'll get all these techniques. But a lot of the techniques are oriented around the breath. So it's really important. It's called belly breathing.
Oh,
When
yeah.
you breathe into your belly and the transversus abdominis muscle expands outward, you're stretching the vagus nerve, you're creating tone in the vagus nerve. And when you slow the breath down just slightly, that is what generates a vagal stimulation to create an anti-inflammatory response. And there are other ways to do that, some of which are very funny, like splashing cold water in your face, because the face is a parasympathetic organ. But at any rate, my wife saw me dunking my head in cold water one time just to see what the effect would be on my vagus nerve. And she said, "Are you crazy?"
That's cute. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now, where is your book sold, and how would people be able to get a copy for themselves?
Well, the book is sold in all major book venues or bookstores, but I would have to say, the Amazon has the best price. I don't sell it out of my office here, but Amazon is the way to go, and it really has the best price. It's very reasonably priced on Amazon at $31. It's with this amount of information and photographs and color drawings. It's really an amazing buy. Yeah.
Well, wonderful, and it sounds it, and I can tell it's chock full of information that would benefit any massage therapist. So thank you for sharing that with us today, and I hope you'll come back and review one of your other books with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Would love to, Donnell. Thank you.
So thank you. And Shea School is located where?
We're in Juno Beach, Florida, and my
Okay.
website is shayhart.com.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, and I'll look forward to having you back again.
Thank you,
Thank
Donnell.
you.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.